I am glad I've modified these because I'm really not a ruffle kind of person. So hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kirsten and welcome to A Fire Creates. And today we are talking about the round 6 socks for Sock Madness 20. As I said in the last episode, I'm no longer in the competition and I'm kind of glad because the socks this time were really not my style and I'm glad I didn't have to try and knit them to pattern specifications. So they are a bit modified, but I'll get into that in a minute. But these are my interpretation of the No Place Like Home socks by Arianna Mao. And as I said, these are the round 6 pattern. Used 4 different colours of yarn, which did catch me out because I genuinely thought that would be the last round. But I'm quite happy with them. I've got a little pair of short ones. Made a nice change from some of the longer socks that we've done. But I'll let you run through the sort of diary notes I was taking, and I'll chat to you a bit more about my final thoughts on these socks at the end. Now, while these socks are very, very cute, they are not quite my taste, and I'd like to make something that I know I will wear. So I'm going to make a few modifications. Firstly, I'm going to skip out doing the duplicate stitch bow on the toes, and I'm not going to do the ruffle. Now, there are notes in the pattern that says if you don't like the ruffle, you can substitute a 2x2 rib cuff, and I'm going to do that. I am going to make one more change, which is I'm going to do it in the main colour, so it matches the toe and the sole, rather than the lightest of the 3 colours used for the gingham area. So I think that'll make a slightly different sock and one that I can get more use out of. Now the specs for round 6 dropped on Friday the 15th of May, I think, and it said it was going to be sock D, which was the 4 colour sock setup, which I was slightly surprised because I honestly thought that was going to be the final. But that needed 4 different colours of yarn, and the ones I picked, I had Sea Teal from For the Love of Yarn Platinum sock, and that was one from Hand Dyeing Workshop. I had a Sparkleduck Spirit yarn in the colourway Sea Quine. Sea Quine. I had the leftover quadropole from Rusty Ferret that I used for the Allele socks from the warm-up. And I also had the Cooks and Crafts Club Silver, which I was using for the Quasar socks. And that was kind of what I was working with. And I had main colour as being the For Love of Yarn sock. And then the 3 different ones. I think I had this one as C1, this one is CC3, and this one is CC2. Now, obviously, since then, the sock pattern did drop on Saturday night, quite late my time. It was after 11. And looking at the design, I made some changes. So instead, I'm using, try and stop it from rolling away, it's being a right pain. So I'm going to use this teal colour as the main colour because that's the dark, and that'll be for the toe and the sole of foot. And then for the plaid section, or the checked pattern, I think these 2 work really well because that does look like this one. They look like they belong in the same family, and that this one is kind of where it's got a different warp and weft, which kind of fits. But the problem I've got is that the silver doesn't really now fit in. And I do have 2 alternatives, which is I have some hedgehog fibre sock from last year in the colourway Typewriter. And I had planned to use that for, well, what will now be the round 7 socks. But it's got black specks in it and none of the other yarns do. So I'm not sure about that. I do have some West Yorkshire Spinner's Signature in milk bottle, and I'm thinking I might just go with this one because I don't need very, very much, and that leaves plenty for the other project it's meant to be used for. And then that means I could use this sorry, my yarn is making a bid for freedom onto the floor, and it means I can use this silver to go with the Border Tar indigo dyed yarns that I've got for the final round, and I think that'll actually work better than the Typewriter. So I think that's my plan. And hopefully that should all work nice and smoothly. I'll get you a better picture of the yarns now all together. So hello again, it is the afternoon of Monday the 18th of May and I have made some progress on these socks. So I actually cast these on Sunday, so just yesterday, and I got like 3 or 4 rows of the toes done. And then my yarn, which is this little ball here, I had it caked up and I was using it from both ends. and it kind of collapsed on me, got utterly tangled. So I spent about 2.5, maybe even 3 hours last night untangling it. Honestly, it would have been done a lot quicker, but after I untangled it the first time, I then managed to retangle it. So I spent most of my night just literally unwinding that yarn and putting it back into a ball again and again. But if I need to get it done, the colour is really not showing up very well on the camera here. It's a much greener turquoise in real life. But I've got the toes done, and I'm currently working my way through the soles. And I think I've got 3 more rows of the sole to do before I start doing the work on the gusset. And then it's just bits of the heel that I need to finish off, and then I can pick up these stitches, which are currently held on a spare cable, and that will start doing the plaid pattern. Check pattern? Check pattern, it's a gingham. So yeah, so happy so far. Amazingly, one of my teammates who was still in the competition has actually already finished. I don't know how quickly they got those knit. But I think by the time they announced they got them knit, I literally had like 4 rows of each toe done. So well done to them. So we're all going to be cheering them on in the final. Yeah, so at the moment, I think the last time I looked online, there was still 14 slots open out of the 26 teams. I don't know whether I'm going to get these socks finished before the round is officially complete, because all 26 final knitters have done it. But it'll be interesting to see how far I can get. So I'll update you when I get to the next stage. So, no microphone, but you know how I mentioned earlier in the day that last night I spent most of the evening unraveling things? This is what happens when you drop your cables, drop loads of stitches, and let the small ball that you'd wound everything into get tangled again. So I think I know what I'm doing for the rest of the evening. Good evening. It is the 21st of May, and I finished knitting this gingham panel last night and started on the ribbing. And then this morning I finished the ribbing, got it bound off, and got all the ends woven in, and this section seamed. It's not my favourite finish. My seam feels quite bulky, but I can't figure out a way of doing it where you don't end up with weird gaps. I'm pretty sure there probably is a way of doing this where you don't have this problem. And I'm thinking back to the Chattahoochee socks from last year, and I think they might have something a bit like this. But anyway, it's done. It'll do for now. It won't just do for now. I can't see myself going back and changing it. But I've got all the ends sewn in on this one. And I am now about to pick up the stitches for the second sock for the gingham panel on the instep. Now, if you can look here, you can see how nicely these colours are working. And that's with the West Yorkshire Spinners, Milk Bottle, and the For the Love of Yarn Platinum sock in this teal. And the colour I'm using in between is the Rusty Ferret Quadropole. I don't have a name for the colourway, but it was kind of like teal, blue, white kind of thing. And that's working really, really well as like the blended colour. But the problem I've got, I'm just going to zoom out slightly, is this is the ball I've got left. Now, I have been pulling from the outside for the first sock, and this is kind of the colour that's coming up that I used for this sock. But as you can see from this ball, there's not a lot of that very light greeny shade left. So either take a chance and use what I can of the outside, or I pull from the other end. And if you humour me here, this is kind of where the colour's going with that, and I have a feeling that's going to be too dark and too blue. So I think I might have to try and chance, and if the gingham becomes slightly bleached out, well, I'll just have to accept that. But we shall see. But I think I'm going to finish it off with this end, because I don't think this is going to work as nicely. So wish me luck. So good evening. It is Friday the 22nd. We're currently in the evening, so apologise if the lighting's not brilliant. And as you can see, I've got the instep finished, and I've just joined for the leg in the round, and I'm now working the gusset decreases. As I feared yesterday, the quadrupole yarn, the one that was the white blue teal mix, it is sort of gone. If I just zoom in here, you can probably see a bit, but you can see that the actual teal colour is really not very apparent. It is there in little spots, and I think we should be getting back to a bit of colour. I'm not sure if it'll happen before the end of the leg, but I knew that was a risk, and I still think that worked better than using the other end of it, which I really think would have been too dark. Looking at it there, yeah. So I've only got about 10 or so more rounds to go on the leg, and then I can do the cuff, and I did 10 rounds of 2x2 rib. So that should be really simple, and then I just need to get the instep seam to the sole, and then those will be done. And this afternoon when I checked on Ravelry, Group A had got their finalist. So all the 26 spots now are filled. And we're just waiting on news of when round 7 will start. I know from previous years that they do normally email the finalists and try and get a start time that kind of works for everybody as best you can when you're dealing with people from all over the world. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm hoping to get these done. And there's a lot of motorsport on this weekend. So I'm hoping that I can get these finished tonight, and then I can make a good go on the polyrhythm socks, which are the bonus 4, and hopefully get a good chunk of them done before round 7 begins. I suspect round 7 will happen over the weekend, just because logically it is a good time for that to happen. And I'm kind of stuck with my Mini Mania scarf because I'm trying to do the yarn in stripes of the order the patterns were released, not when I finished them. So I have the yarn from not merely round 5 but now nearly round 6, and I need to finish the polyrhythm socks before I can add all those yarns into the scarf. So I will get there eventually, but that's where I'm at. Now, my final thoughts on this pattern. As I say, I got them finished on the evening of the 22nd, and I took pictures on the 23rd, which is why they're actually in daylight. It's a really, really hard colour to photograph. It looks different in every single shot I've taken. So just trust me when I say it all blends together very nicely colour-wise. In terms of construction, yes, it's a bit faffy, sort of doing the toe and the sole and then the instep separately. The only bit I really don't like is having to do the big seams, because when you're doing the gingham pattern, you're knitting the last stitch of each row with both yarns, so it's quite bulky, and then you're seaming the slip stitch from the sole section and this double stitch from the instep together, so there is a lot of yarn there. I'm sure there probably is a way of doing it where you perhaps pick up a round and then sort of knit together, which might make a slightly flatter seam. I did have a go at doing that on the second sock, but it didn't really work because I hadn't picked up stitches. I was just trying to pick up the slips. But that's something that might be worth considering. The little gingham pattern I really, really love, and I think it's a really nice way, as if you're a bit like me and you really like certain colours and you've got a lot of them, this could be a really fun way of blending them together. But apart from that, I don't really have a lot of thoughts about the socks. As I said at the beginning, I'm glad I didn't have to knit them to spec, because I'm not really a ruffly bow kind of person. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. In some ways, probably my least favourite of the patterns so far, and I think that is mainly just because they really aren't, or the original pattern really wasn't my style. I'm very curious to see what comes up next. And looking online on Ravelry, the mods have announced that they're in contact with all of the finalists and they're trying to figure out a good starting slot. So we're just kind of waiting on that to happen. In the meantime, I am still ploughing away on the polyrhythm socks. I'm getting there slowly, but I passed all the heels and I'm now on the foots of those, so they now look something like this. So hopefully I'll get those done. And then I've just got one more pair to knit of the 14, which is rather exciting and also kind of scary that I've knitted 14 pairs of socks since the beginning of February, and it's only mid to late May now. But it is a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to having lots and lots of socks in my sock drawer. So that's where I'm at. I'm now just waiting for the final round to drop. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why not give me a like? And if you'd like to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. So that's all for now, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!